unanimously ruling in favor of a former postal worker who was forced to quit after being denied a religious accommodation to have Sundays off. Gerald Groff is that postal worker. He joins us now along with Hiram Sasser, Executive General Counsel for First Liberty Institute. Gentlemen, thanks for being here. Congrats on the big win. Gerald, first question to you. What was your reaction when this decision came down?
I was thrilled at that moment. It was just so amazing to see that it was a 9-0 decision in our favor. I was just so glad to see it was unanimous, that both the conservative justices and the liberal justices, came together to agree that it's important to protect religious freedom in America.
Through their treatment of you, the USPS basically forced you into a choice between your job and your religion. Just by way of background, walk us through some of the ways that they pressured you to work on Sundays and made your life miserable during your final days of that working experience.
Yeah, it started all in 2015 when they, first started to talk about Amazon delivery on Sundays. They found a way to make it work at first so that I was excused from that, but then after a while, they mandated it for everyone in my position. And after that, for about 2 years, they just started to progressively discipline me, starting with a letter of warning and then 2 suspensions, and the only thing left was a termination. I was concerned about having a federal level termination on my work record, so I chose to resign under duress at that point. But really every day was some form of misery. I mean, I lost my seniority at some point by transferring to another post office. It was an extremely difficult experience.
Hiram, this is a big win for Gerald, but not just him. It's a big win for people across the country. Justice Samuel Alito writing in the opinion, quote, an employer who fails to provide an accommodation has a defense only if the hardship is undue, and a hardship that is attributable to an employee animosity to a particular religion in general, or to the very notion of accommodating religious practice cannot be considered undue. So Hiram, what does this decision mean for employers and employees across our country?
Well, this was a huge wake-up call for the HR departments of corporate America all across the country, that they can no longer drive the people of faith into the shadows. And no longer can they just presume that they're always going to win and not have to actually follow the statute that Congress passed 50 years ago. So what's really interesting about this is that for millions of Americans, it's been 50 years. Most working Americans have never been able to work under the full freedom that Congress had granted them by statute under Title VII. So this is going to be a new day, and all those HR departments are going to have to rewrite the manual and start accommodating people of faith in an appropriate way.
Gerald, at a time when people practicing their faith is at an all-time low, why did you choose to fight?
I chose to stand for what I believe because I love the Lord, and that's my motivation. At first, I was trying to save my job with the Postal Service. After I lost my job, my motivation was to keep that from ever happening to anybody else who has a sincerely held belief in America. Because after all, in America, freedom is what it's all about. It's what our founders had in mind when they formed this nation, is that people could come here and be free from persecution and as much difficulty as possible. So really that's what I'm so excited about with the court decision yesterday, is that we did protect religious freedom. That goes a long way to protecting all freedom in this country. And so that's what I was all about all along.
Hiram, not to get too procedurally wonky, but the court reinstated Gerald's case against the Postal Service. So where does that case go from here?
Well, we're just learning that Felicia Lott, the spokesperson for the United States Postal Service, has decided that they are going to engage in trench warfare against us and fight to the bitter end and force us to drag them through years of litigation. I don't know if she was authorized by the Department of Justice to make that kind of comment, but I'm sure that there's members of Congress that certainly would like to look into why they would be so defiant in the face of a 9-0 decision, completely taking down all of their legal arguments.
Yeah, I find that many people on the left, and I probably shouldn't assume that she's on the left, but I am for argument's sake, they find that Supreme Court decisions really are suggestions and not the law. They may want to revisit how the whole system works. Gerald and Hiram, thank you so much. Congrats on your big win.